are live.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Orange Board of Finance. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:10 p.m. It's Monday, November 15th. We'll start with everyone introducing themselves, beginning on my right, and I'd like to welcome Kevin McNabola before he introduces himself for back, and Ajit, our other new member, is not here at the moment.
Kevin Moffett.
Kevin McNabola.
John Cifarelli, Finance Director.
Joe Nuzzo.
Jim Leahy.
Kevin Houlihan, thank you. Public participation, there's none. I do want to just take a second and thank PJ Shanley and Pat Romano for their service, especially the last couple of years with our Zoom meetings and their input, and appreciate all they did, and we will miss them. And move on from there. Item number 4, election of officers.
We start with chairman, is that the deal?
Yes,
Okay. Well, how do we do this? We make a motion?
you nominate someone.
Oh, I nominate-
It's only been 2 years.
I nominate Kevin Houlihan for chairman of the,
Microphone? Sorry, things off.
is mine on?
No, you got to hit
Is the
the,
green light on?
it's got to be dark. There it is.
Violation on me. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I nominate Kevin Houlihan as chairman of the Board of Finance. I think he's done a fine job, and that would be my thought.
I can second that.
Somebody saying, vote no.
Any objections?
Was that?
There's a nomination, there's a second.
Immediate feedback there, Kevin? Or?
Are there any other nominations? Okay. There's a motion, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, me. Thank you. Nobody else wants to sit here for all these years. I told Kevin on Fridays he'd have his old job back. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, so now need to nominations for vice chairman.
I'll nominate Jim Leahy, Vice Chair.
I'll second that.
Second by Kevin. Any other nominations? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain? Jim abstains. Great.
Can I be treasurer, Mr. Chairman? Treasurer for
You just want money, Joe?
When do we, the Amity rep just continues, or? I don't remember how we even
me?
did
I don't know
that.
if you have to nominate me
We-
to continue. That's a good question.
Well, we
I
can,
guess you could.
Let's put it on the old business list. How about that?
okay.
As what, treasurer?
No, Amity finance rep.
AFC.
Well, we'll put it on for next month, because we're not going to let him out for this yet.
I said treasurer, just kidding. You don't have it.
You can add it to
You
the
don't get paid.
agenda, Kevin. We're not, we're in a regular meeting, so if you want to add it to the agenda to do it, you can.
Okay.
So how do we do it? We make a
We
motion?
need a motion to add the Amity finance representative.
Okay,
to
I'll
the
make that
agenda.
motion, Deb, which has now become 4A on the agenda, I guess.
I'll second
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Even if you vote against yourself, you lose, you're on. Thank you.
Now we have to go through the formal process now?
No, we just did. He's on.
Oh, I thought we were just adding it to the agenda.
No, we did that. Oh,
Now
yeah.
we have
Oh,
to actually do
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry. You, Jim, you're right.
Agenda and then vote.
All right.
Boy.
It was added to the agenda, and I thought Kevin nominated you. So, and you, Jim seconded it.
We can have that.
I seconded the vote to put on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so it's on the agenda, so
Okay, now
now,
we're on the
is
agenda.
there a nomination for the Amity finance representative?
A G, anybody? A G?
I nominate Joe Nuzzo.
G, give it to a G.
Is there a second? Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, good.
Welcome
Good job,
back, Joe.
Thank you.
It's not
Like I never-
treasurer, you know,
like I
but,
never left.
you
Show up a
know,
little late and they nail you.
Get right in.
Okay, item number 5, funding requests. Memo from Christy Massey to Shara, RN Orange Board of Health Chairman, requesting additional funding from American Rescue Plan. Discussion only at this time. So, John, you want to fill us in on?
we got 3 of these
These emails.
emails, right?
There's
So
been
I've
a-
got them up here, John, as 1, 2, and 3, so you're probably not going to have them that way. You might have them.
Yeah, I'll have them, I'll use them
Okay.
that
Oh,
way.
that's right, you
The
have
fir-
them
the
there.
f- The first one was a request to the first selectman asking for funding out of the money, the $2 million that came in from the federal government, to have another clinic, a third clinic for the third shot over there. And they were told to put a budget together. They put a budget together, and that was the third page of this group of the budget. Mr. Zioli then responded to her. and
Okay, so that's the first document.
that was the first document. The
Okay,
second
thank you.
document is Mr. Zioli's response to her about what he thought was, he had problems with their budget, and he went through it and told her what his problems were, or what
Okay,
he
and
thought.
just for the folks at home, John, I'm just going to, from a process perspective, although I won't bother to turn the thing sideways, he responded to each line item pretty much
Right.
on the Excel document that, that's in our package here.
Right. And then the third email was back from Christie, responding to Mr. Zioli's response. And that's where we stand right now. She has requested that this be put on the agenda for December, and they will be coming in. And by that time, Mr. Zioli and I will probably have a different budget put together of what we think the expenses could be. And I gotta say, there were some problems with the original,
Submission.
no, the original
Clinic?
clinics that they had. That some of the information wasn't, most of the information wasn't captured from the people that had the shots, and we weren't able to get reimbursed from the federal government for most of the shots. So,
Would we have been able to be reimbursed?
yes, yes.
And-
Just like Griffin Hospital, Yale, New Haven, Hartford Health, none of them were doing it for free. Everybody, CVS, everybody giving shots were being reimbursed anywhere, I understand, from $30 to $50 a shot.
And how many shots were done that,
My understanding, there were 1,800 shots, and only 100 were, enough information was captured. And that was in an email that myself and the first selectman got from the business manager over there.
1,800 shots, $50, you said?
30
to
to
50.
50.
Okay, so $70,000 in the middle?
Yeah. For OV&A, that's bleeding money. It's a lot of money.
Okay, so we're just talking about it tonight, right?
Yes.
Before we get into 1 or 2 details, why is it that they would be coming to the Board of Finance?
Because.
What's the process?
Between you and the Board of Selectmen control that money, how that money is spent.
The American Rescue Act.
Right.
Okay.
And this is not in their budget anyway, so they'd have to come to
Correct.
us even if
Correct.
there wasn't the,
Absolutely.
So, is this group in our budget now, not this activity, but is this
Yes.
group in our budget now?
Yes.
So when we get to, and it's called what when we get to the 25-page?
Board of Health, I think it is.
Board of Health. Okay, thank you.
It's a very small budget.
Okay. So the idea is Who would decide how much money, if any, they would receive?
This board,
This board.
this board.
And what's the role of the selectmen then?
The selectmen could also direct this board to allocate funds, like they do sometimes in contracts.
Right.
Okay.
One issue I had, and I guess I'd go, and this is the Excel sheet if you want to, if anyone wants to dive into that a bit. I got to this page, and you know, we do a lot of this, right? And I'm looking at these 5 bullets here. COVID-19 vaccination programs for the town residents and businesses. This is what specifically these funds would be utilized to cover the following activities. So I immediately said, gee, I went over to Yale and got COVID shot. I can now go elsewhere now and go COVID shot or get COVID tested. Okay. Medical expenses relating to mitigation activities. Vaccination clinic contact exposure and follow-up appointments. Public health surveillance and health education. Surveillance, education. Enhancement of public health data systems. Okay. Enhancement. Improving outreach to address the diverse needs of the Orange community. Outreach, not only needs, but diverse needs. I didn't get a clear picture of what problem we are trying to solve here. Did the rest of you have any thoughts on this, Kevin? One of 3, Kevin's?
I was a little, the original one that came out, I was a little confused, because I wasn't sure if that was to cover previous expenses that obviously would have been outside of their budget. You know, the COVID hit, they didn't know it was coming. They had the clinic set up for the shots, et cetera, so they had to have more people, I would imagine. And so I wasn't sure if that was for the old stuff or the new stuff. Then it became somewhat clearer, but it's still not answering all the questions when the second memo came out. But this, as you just explained, the 5 points, some of that to me would seem that it would be, yeah, maybe it could be covered with the stimulus money, or whatever we're calling it. And some of the other stuff looks like it might be something that they would do on an ongoing basis in their normal, you know, day-to-day type work. You know, so in other words, all 5 points would be stuff we aren't, together we shouldn't consider. Some of them should be in their normal operating, and the other stuff might be COVID-related in the stimulus money.
I was wondering how this might dovetail with OVNA. I mean, they were sitting in here one time, and we grilled them pretty good, I thought, just trying to understand their plight, right? Mm-hmm. And I just.
So it looks like they're trying to get out in front of the next wave, which will be the booster shots. Right. And then continue on, you know, with the
John, if we did not get $70,000, which we could have gotten had we had a more robust process to document the activity and therefore get reimbursed for it, does that mean we expended $70,000, or what was the actual? Because we did this activity, we had to spend what?
The clinics that we ran last spring, I guess it was, from the beginning of February, I think, till the end of May, was covered by money that we received in the CARE Act. Right. If you read the New Haven Register, they FOI'd us on what we used that money for, and a lot of it was used to cover that. And that was in the article in the paper. That covered policemen there, that covered the nurses that were there, that covered
Traffic, overtime.
Yeah, the different things. I
Where
forget all
was
the
this,
different things.
where was this event or activities occurring?
High Plains.
High Plains?
High Plains,
Okay. So we expended money under the CARES Act,
right,
but we would have also got reimbursed 70,000 had
also
we
got-
been,
yes,
if we had a robust enough process,
yes,
also known as being smart,
yes,
for doing it?
yes.
Okay.
Jim, there's also two tranches of money as well, to John's point. There's the Corona Relief Fund, which is the CARES money that goes from March of 20, basically through December of this year. And then back in May, all the municipalities, cities and towns were also offered the ability to have the American Rescue Act funded, which is a separate tranche.
Did I read in here some reference to the American Rescue Act as a source of what they wished
Well,
to
that's
have
where,
a funding source?
that's where they
Yeah.
want the money to come out of.
Which is 1.2 million?
Now it's 2,060,000, the first group.
That's what Orange
It's
got?
another 2 million coming next June.
Yeah, so it's a total of over
It's,
4.
yeah, it's about 4 million.
So I stopped
That's the
following that
Excel
stuff.
file
That's how
that-
much we're gonna get now?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the Excel
there's-
file that you sent me, John, that I started to do an analysis. Remember you said it was done by population, and you and I had some discussion
Yes,
about that?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Even the CARE funding, we had a first group of money that all the cities and towns got at their request for what they thought they were going to spend. And at the time, it didn't look like we were going to spend anything. So I think our town's request was like $10,000-$15,000. We got that. All the requests came in from the different cities and towns. It was low. So then there was still another pot of money that the state had to distribute. Then they distributed that to the cities and towns, and they said we wouldn't have, the first thing they said, we wouldn't have to back it up with any expenses, unlike the first pot. The second pot was for Orange was $97,000. Then all of a sudden, the 1st October, it was OPM, wasn't it?
Yep.
Came out with an email to all of us that said, we made a mistake, you gotta back it up, you got till the end of the month to file the documents.
Well, that
So
makes
that's when-
sense.
That's
You know,
when we hit.
you know,
Sounds like your world.
yeah, here's
And that was-
90,000, just do whatever you want.
And that was the same time, that the register came in with the FOI request asking what we spent the money on too, because after what happened in West Haven, they went digging all over the place for it. And what we did in town, because I wanted it in each department's budget, I didn't want them to go crazy. If we had set up a separate account for this kind of cost, the departments would have spent money more than what they needed to spend. So I kept it in their budget, and I had to mark COVID related. And then we had to go back and dig it out, which made it harder for our department. But in the end, it was a better way to
So
keep
you applied the
control
COVID stuff within each department?
into the 97,000.
And was that basically payroll-related items for
Uh,
public health,
it was-
police, and fire? Well,
Yeah,
not so much fire.
it was, we didn't even do payroll. Mostly we did disinfecting things for the thing.
Cleaning
The
products, yeah.
cleaning products, we had to buy
Plastic shields,
plexiglass and
plexiglass.
stuff for different offices.
Hopefully swapping
We-
out vents, the filters a lot
Yeah, remember
quicker than
those, remember those air handling units we had to send over to the Board of Ed?
Yeah.
That originally they said they were gonna reimburse us, that then they didn't. That was part of that money. That covered a major portion of that 97,000. There were legal fees.
Yeah,
There was
with that-
$5,000 of legal fees on Our Lady of Sorrows. That's still going on there.
Now,
Okay.
is there debate, because this budget of 89,000, and I know there's issues with whatever the fees are, that's 24 days of booster clinics. But if we did 1,800 shots, because I think Orange did Pfizer or Moderna,
I think we did Moderna.
so that 1,800 shots is 900 people.
But the booster
Two
was
shots.
only one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so with people,
I don't
You know-
know. I know they did service, the idea originally was to service town residents, and they did service a lot of out-of-town residents.
out-of-town residents.
Yes, because they went up on the website, they went up on the site to sign in, and the site gave you, if you were out-of-town resident, you went onto that site to sign in, and it gave you orange, just like it gave you Yale, and so you couldn't lock anybody out from the thing. Then they developed, I think, their own software, and they tried to direct Orange residents to their own software to do it. But I'm not sure how successful that was. I think they went to a second day also when they did that.
Where else can you, this is basically for shots, right? Where else can you get shots these days?
All over just about. You could get them Griffin, Yale,
CVS.
Hartford Health.
CVS?
I went to CVS a week and a half ago.
Walgreens.
Yeah. And we
The
Who
children
gives you
now,
the shot at CVS?
pharmacists.
Pharmacists.
They're not RNs, right?
No.
But
they're trained.
It's like
They're
an
trained.
EMT getting trained.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, because.
Also, the children now, the 5 to 11-year-olds, those are going to their pediatrician. The
course they would.
pediatricians are giving those shots.
So
out
you
now.
don't think we'd be doing the little kids in Orange?
I would think very few.
Because it's like, how necessary is this, probably have to do some, because it's our citizens, but 24 days I don't see it.
Lisa Pimento told me she thinks she would need to go to our residents that are homebound, and she has pretty much
OVNA is Lisa Pimento?
OVNA,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And she has pretty much a list of those.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And they may need to do it for the schools. They did it for the schools, for the original shots, for the teachers.
Is there communication between OVNA and this group? Well, let me put it this way. If you had to grade the communication, how would it be?
Spotty, probably.
All right, thank you.
She, in defending OVNA, she's got kind of a different mission than what their mission is right now. I mean, she knows she's in a bad position with her budget.
Right.
And her revenues. And this took away from her, when they ran the clinics earlier, this took people away from her that were supposed to be doing other things.
So if I could summarize then, Kevin, you're educating me that it seems like we had the CARES Act, which was from March of last year, 20, to the end of this year, 21. And how much money did we get from that, John?
About $105,000
Okay.
total.
And now we have the American Recovery Act, ARA.
American Rescue Plan.
Rescue Fund?
Yeah.
Oh, I wrote down rescue. If only I could read, Joe. That's a violation right there. Come on, man. Keep it fair. Keep me honest.
We have a spot in our minutes, we got to correct that today, too.
And how much are we getting? 2,060,000?
We're in total, we're going to get about 4,100,000.
Okay, and it comes in two
slices.
chunks, and the chunks, do they have to, like, you only have this for this period of time, and if you go up to it, you can't go over, or is it?
No, you have, I think, into 2024 to come up with projects to use it for, and you have, I think, sometime until 2026 to actually spend it.
So Jim, it's December 31st of 2024. You have to identify your projects and encumber. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
You have
And you have to
until,
have
you have until
expenditures.
December 31st of 2024 to identify your projects and encumber the funds for the projects. And then you have another 2 years on top of that to December 31st of 2026 to actually expend all the money.
okay, and the guidance on what you could spend it on, John, where is that these days?
That guidance is from the U.S. Treasury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I said to you today, it's 150 pages, and
Yeah.
some places it contradicts itself, and other places.
It's like early on when we were dealing with the Board of Ed budget last year with some of the money they were getting. It's like nobody knew.
They sent you the money, but they didn't explain what you could do with it.
And
So-
they
One
still
article
haven't
said this, the next one said
finalized,
that.
Yeah.
and they still haven't finalized the rules. They're still working through that.
Is
They
it me,
said
or
December now.
last March, we had almost, I remember someone's voice, I think it was you and Kevin H. And you had specifically said these categories of things, like 4 or 5 categories.
Yeah.
Which, if it's expanded to 150 pages of,
Well, that was different funding back then.
That was the CARES?
That was, CARES was still back in March.
Okay.
The American Rescue didn't come until sometime in the
May.
middle of
This year.
the year.
Came in May,
Right.
yeah.
So we haven't yet get to saying, here are the 8 categories, more or less, that you can spend money on for Town of Orange, 4.1 million, which has to be identified by the end of 2024,
Right,
and then spent by end of 2026.
That's correct, yeah.
which we've already identified one project that we're moving towards spending the money on, that stormwater project that we voted on last month.
And that's
That comes
under
out of the
the-
American Rescue Plan,
$83,000 or 87?
87,000.
87,000.
Okay, so we're gonna have a laundry list, an Excel file of this,
Right.
and how much we spent,
I
and how much we
expect
got to
at some
go,
point
you
in
know.
time, the first selectman and I don't know who else, will probably sit down and come up with a list of items to spend it on.
Okay.
And there's
Who
a number
determines
of
what we
things.
did, say, okay, yeah, that project is, like we
It'll
do.
probably go to the Board of Selectmen first, say like we wanna fix the pool, the HVAC system in the pool.
Okay,
That would probably go out to bid. It'd go to the first Board of Selectmen for their approval, and then it would come here to find the place to expend the money with the recommendation to take it out of.
so that
this
feels like the
fund.
process, therefore.
I would think that's gonna be pretty much the process.
So I'm still wondering why these people are coming here, if that's the process.
Well, that would be the process for that. I'm not sure that would be the process for them, because I think you'd look at that as they're looking to increase their budget.
But I was asking the question, and I actually didn't ask the question, you answered it in the question that I asked, that how that would be.
What's the process?
What's the
Right.
process? You kind of defined it as saying, yeah, the HVAC at the pool and how it would then be approved by selectmen, and we're kind of out of the game. So if that's how ARA money, American Rescue Act money, is projects identified and approved by the town, us, and is by the selectmen, I'm not sure what this is doing here. I mean, you don't have to, I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm fine with it.
I look at that different. I look at that as a department requesting an increase in their budget, unlike HVAC system for
But they're
the
saying, but
pool.
we're all agreeing that this would come out of the American Rescue Act.
Right, right.
So there's
gotta
different
follow-
processes
But-
depending on the
but-
project?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And we're ultimately
Since
gonna
we're not
come
gonna
up-
vote on anything tonight, because this is for information only, the other side, to me, is, I would think the first selectman or board of selectmen would be in favor of running a 24-day clinic or not. I don't know if that would be a hard decision.
I could ask him that. I'm not sure he wanted to do it that way. He looked at it the way I'm looking at it, that it's an increase in the department budget, and it's kind of up to you guys with his blessing. But if you think it should
Well, you
go
said you were gonna
before
look
the
at
board-
things for their costs and everything, and the necessity of something, because I look at it, and I don't know the rules, and I don't wanna drag this out any longer, but, you know, I go to CVS and got my booster shot a week and a half ago. There wasn't a physician there,
Right.
so I don't know why we have a
Right.
physician for 8 hours in here, and there, things like that, that's where my questions are.
Those would be good questions that when they come in, and that's still in the budget, you would ask them. I would question them on any and all of those line
'Cause
items
I don't know
there.
if they had a physician here when they ran the original clinics.
I think he was in and out,
He was in and out, okay.
yeah.
Does anybody know who FJR is on September 29th of 21? You see it over in the corner? That's pretty common methodology to put your initials when you create something.
Whoever created the document.
That's right. So I'm
I
asking
don't know if
who
they have
is
a
that?
clerical.
Somebody from public health or, yeah.
I didn't see any FJRs in the, you know.
It could be somebody on that board also.
Okay.
So we're actually talking two different things. We're talking here Department of Health and the OVNA. So there's two separate, or is one mixing in with the other?
No, they're both separate.
Yeah,
as I know.
so we're dealing with two departments.
Well, I don't think, like you see those registered nurses up there, I'm not sure those nurses are coming out of the OV&A, because I don't know if she has the staffing to be able to do this.
Right.
They might be doing
They may
day
be a per diem
Per diem people, yeah.
that
Yeah.
bringing in.
administrative support.
When they did 1,800, how many clinics and how many clinic hours were there?
I think they went from 9 to 3, 3:30, something like that.
How many
2
days?
days a week.
How much?
2 days a week,
How many
I think
weeks?
it was, from the beginning of February to the end of May. When they got to May, I think the clinics, the time started going lower because they were just picking up the people that needed their second shot. It was kind of ending at that time.
And things were more readily available like they are now.
Right.
Before,
You had a lot more options.
Right.
you know, early on, everybody was scrambling and your appointment might be a
Right.
month and a half out.
So that was last year they did this?
That was
Yeah.
this year.
This year.
This year.
Yeah.
So let me ask
So-
a quick question, Josh. Give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
Let me understand this. 1,800 vaccine shots were given. From whom did we buy the vaccines? So we had to
It
pay
was-
for them first.
No.
We did not.
No, we never paid for them. The federal government paid for them, distributed them to the state, and you had to requisition what you needed that week or that day from the state.
So we're looking to cover the labor costs to
Right.
administer those
Right.
vaccines. And because they didn't take proper identification, we can't get reimbursed from the feds for
Right.
that money.
Right.
Okay. That's a big problem.
And because
obviously.
even at CVS, you had to show them,
Sure.
you had to show them your whatever healthcare
Right.
program you were
Right.
covered by. And I'm
Right.
assuming they charge them back, separately.
Right. There's a whole process involved, and you would have to ask Ian, who's the business manager over at OV&A, what's involved in it, but it's a whole process.
So
Like
from-
when I went to Griffin, first thing they did when you walked in the door, they wanted your driver's license and your medical card.
You
And they
can't,
had-
you can't do anything else, you can't go past go until
Yeah.
you do that,
And they had a
CVS
copy
was-
and they
CVS was
copied
the
it
same
right
thing.
there.
you know?
Yeah, I
They
had
have to
on the
get paid.
booster, I had to upload my
Yep.
insurance card.
So
The other one I just brought
So
it.
John, playing it back, 2 clinic days per week, February to the end of May. That's 18 weeks. That's 36 clinic days, right? And you said from 9 to 3:30. Let's say it's a half hour for
Something
lunch.
like
So
that.
that's 216 hours, clinic hours. Okay. And so it's a drop-in, just waiting for people to show up?
No, they had appointments. They
Yeah.
did have appointments.
And you could call up, because
Yeah.
I know my son, when he went, he happened to call in, to try to get it. He said, well, if you come down, he said, call back at 2 o'clock and we'll tell you how many extra spots we're gonna have and how much stuff we have left. So we called back and they said, if you get here in the next hour, you'll be good, so.
Because if
that's
you
what we
didn't,
did.
if you didn't use the shots you requisitioned and they went to waste, they had to be recorded as that also.
That's right.
It was
Well-
for a system that went up on the fly.
Yeah.
Some of it worked very well as far as that. And I do know there was a snow day where a lot of people canceled and a lot of people called them, and they were able to accommodate people just coming in that day calling because of the other people canceling because they didn't want to come out in the snow on one of the days. I think that was in February at the beginning.
Well, it seems like they were doing on average 50 a day.
That's probably true.
Anything else we need to worry about on this? They want to come in
They
December,
want to come in December.
at which time we'll have more information from your side.
One final thing, Kev. What is Regeneron.com? Kathy Macy's, Christy Macy's email address.
It's a medical company, isn't it?
It's like a biotech, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
She actually goes by a couple of names too. That's
Yeah,
why
I
I
saw
put
that.
on.
Depending on which department she's
Italian or
representing.
Portuguese, man, see or Teixeira.
Okay, thank you.
She played first base for the Yankees.
Okay, item number 6, Amity update. Mr. Nuzzo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so the MB agenda last Monday night was a little bit on the later side. We had a presentation from Mike Goss on the pension performance. And so the Amity pension right now has a balance of $17.5 million. The one-year return was 20.6%, which is a strong showing for the year. And year-to-date, it's just under 9%. In the quarter, it's about break even. So again, all in all, I think anybody who's in the market realized it was a good year for all of us. One good thing about COVID. The Amity OPEB trust has $3.3 million in it. Again, same performance, just under 21%. Year-to-date, 8.5%, and quarter, it's about break even. And then we have the sick and severance has a balance of $806,000. The one-year return there was 16%, and the year-to-date was 7%. Again, smaller portfolio there. So he went over that in the market, and we asked him if we could do another 20% for this year. He couldn't guarantee that for us, but we joked about it for sure. So that was that presentation, pretty quick and to the point with him. Then we talked about the financials. As of this point, through October, there's a surplus of $374. Have that page, Jim? Revenue and
I can
expenditures.
get it up, yeah.
Yeah. So again, not a lot to talk about it. I think we know that they're always trending positively this time of year. And one of the things, too, we noted is we talked a little bit about the medical claims so far. I mean, the budget for 21-22 is about $4.5 million, and the actual claims for 21-22 are $4.6 million. So it's currently forecast at 103%, when the actual last year, 2021, was 76%. So it's a big increase in the medical and dental claims so far this year. So we'll see how, hopefully it won't continue to trend over 100%, but right now that's where it is. So if that's the case, the surplus may not be as high as we've been experiencing the last several years, but let's see how it goes. And I'm sure it's COVID-related that most people did not go to the doctor last year. More are going this year for sure. And here we are. Yeah, catching up. So let's see how that works budget-wise and surplus-wise. May not be what it's been in the past. There wasn't a lot of talk about anything else, really. It's early on in the year. So not too much else happened. Did you have anything else, Jim, that you saw?
I sent out this note. It's up on the screen. We can open up the files, Joey. Good summary there. What I asked myself when I saw the data was, it's early in the year. You can see in the middle of the screen there that I mentioned that the revenue was actually down, unfavorable, $262,000. I don't know if that's assumptions being made or whether we have this, hockey stick at the end of the year where we get reimbursed higher and we assumed lower. I don't know. But you can see there's a very healthy $636,000 in the favorable in the expense category, and therefore the overall, like you mentioned, Joe, $373. So what I did is I said, well, I wonder where we were last year, because we know we ended up at almost $3 million of surplus, and last year we're actually less than that. So I added the tab from last year to save you guys the hassle, since I had looked it up, and so I'll just open up that briefly. So if you're not familiar with it or need to get familiar with it again, Kevin, for example, for you, it's been a while, right? So how they do this, Kev, I'll just direct it to you. Is they are saying, here's our end of the year of last year, here's July, August, September, October, and I added this, okay, to see what it was last year. So I gave it the same nomenclature they were doing there so that it wouldn't cause great shakes. One of the things I owe to this committee and to myself is I have already explained last time, and I'll just show you the chart because it's in the back of my materials for today, that last year they had a surplus of almost $3 million, 2,991. When I went back and checked out, and Joe, this is where you could be helpful as well. When I went back to the end of the year over here and looked for what they had for their surplus, right? Let me go find it. They had here 2,487, right? So, but we both know
Transfer account?
that the transfer account was 507. So let's together, since we're just good friends, right, just ask ourselves, whoops, I have to do enable editing to get this done. If we added together this here with what was not budgeted, was not said to the public that this is how we're going to spend our money, all right, what that number would be. And well, that's very interesting. Add to that this number here. And we got 2,991, so it's pretty close. So I think the idea that 2.99, we could round that to 3 million, or maybe it's better to say 2.99, that is what their surplus was last year. This will be important to this committee as we probably next month, Kev, ask ourselves the question, what type of budget would we support for this year from Amity? All right? I think all of us are familiar that the Amity surpluses are so vast that it dwarfs the amount of increase they ask for. In other words, they could have a 0% budget increase and still have a surplus by a wide margin. I'll be happy to put that together for us when we, as we march forward. But that's something we have done. Well, Ajit's not here, but Kevin, that may be. We started doing a little of that, but we have consistently over the last four or so years said, okay, we could support a budget of this amount, all right? And we already have what, 190-something thousand, John, because of the population increase. Even though our population is going down, it's not going down at the rate that Bethany's is going down and Woodbridge is going down, so therefore we have a higher share. So these are things to consider as we do our duties on the path forward. So Joe, that's, unless you had
No, that was good, Jim,
questions,
thank you.
that's what I would add to the Amity dialogue.
All right. I'm done, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Everybody, any questions for
Do
me?
they get recovery money?
They call it something different, but they do.
They did get money, just because
Yeah.
like when Orange got on the CARES Act, so
Yeah.
they might be able to, some of the things that they've put on in the past
The end of year stuff.
for the HVAC and other things, they might have, that might be covered already with that money. We'll have to,
But if it's like what the elementary schools got, we got the 2 million, they got, I think, 250,000.
Right.
So
Right.
it wasn't much.
It would deflect something.
but
Yeah.
exactly, it's not zero.
I just don't want to give you the impression that they were getting
no,
the kind of money that we got.
We're not getting millions, they're not getting millions, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was one more thing I forgot to mention. We approved a budget transfer to cover the cost of 10 vape sensors in the restrooms of just over $10,000. I guess it's becoming a problem with the vaping in school.
Yeah.
So we're spending $10,000 for vape sensors.
Boy,
Is
times
that
change.
Alarms go off?
Alarms go-
When I was there, we had the corner, and you don't even want to know what that
Yeah.
was.
That wouldn't be you, Kevin, come on.
You couldn't go into them. You couldn't go into them, you come out and you smell like you just smoked a pack.
Wow, okay.
And that was the teachers.
Joe, Joe, quick question on the Amity update. So Michael Goss from, it's Fiduciate, right? Is he the guy?
No, they just merged with the company.
New company.
Yes.
So did he give any insight into the overall pension portfolio on like a recommendation to stay the course?
Stay the course. He did. They
He
stayed
did?
the course.
Okay.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
curious to see what he
Yes.
said because of, all the inflationary factors that are coming into play right now, and we're seeing price pressures, and that
Yeah,
could have an
inflationary,
impact on
sure.
domestic equities within the pension fund, and I thought he might make a recommendation to either
Yeah,
stay the course or.
they stay the course at this point in time.
Okay.
We'll see how the year's doing fine. Again, inflation is creeping up, as we all know. We see it
Yeah.
every day. With
Yeah.
gas and food and everything else that we're doing is going up.
Yeah, I mean,
But they stay the course for
it's gonna,
now.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Jim, did you have a vice chairman's report, or was that part
Yeah,
of
I
it?
do, but what I proposed from talking with John earlier, I think it would be better if we, and I would be happy to make the motion to move item 7 after item 9.
Okay.
That's my motion. It'll fit better for us.
For a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, so we'll move that. Item 8, discussion and approval of minutes from October 18th, 2021.
All right, John, you still batting leadoff?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, on page 1, the very bottom, let's change that very first sentence. Mr. Cifarelli asked that the Board of Finance allocate an amount not to exceed $87,000 from the American Rescue Plan. And then the rest of that paragraph is okay. And that's all I had.
Okay, I got a couple. On page 2, I would start.
Well, Jim, can I interrupt you one second?
Please do.
On page 2.
Yes.
On the motion, let's make that American Rescue Plan again where it says recovery. I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, up here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good catch, John. All right, under item 2, Amity update and Vice Chairman's report. If you go to the second to last sentence, I'll just read it. The town of Orange will have 13 less students next year. We were just talking about this. But both Bethany and Woodbridge will have a greater, in between greater and decrease, I would put greater percentage decrease. I think that is clearer because it really is based on percents. And the only other thing I have, team, is up above that in the paragraph where it starts with the name, words Ms. Romano. Ms. Romano inquired if any money for this project might be available in the form of a state grant. And Mr. Cifarelli indicated that this is uncertain. Wetlands is also an issue of consideration with some of the previously mentioned street locations. That sentence kind of, it felt like I had gone from one novel to, I didn't see the connection I was looking for there.
I think what happened there is I had mentioned that some of the houses were built on what would be considered
Today,
wetlands
exactly.
today.
You did.
And that if they were trying to build them on that property today, they wouldn't have allowed it. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, no, that's
maybe.
what, I remember that.
Yeah. I probably would just strike that last
Strike that second sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would work. That's all I have, Kevin.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained?
I'll
I'll
abstain.
abstain.
I was out.
I was
Two
out.
abstentions.
Yeah.
I don't know, does it
I was
pass?
playing golf.
Of course.
In a far warmer spot.
Okay.
Oh, inside information here.
Item 9, to review and approve regular meeting dates for 2022.
I'll throw a calendar up for
Okay,
you,
this
Kevin.
is the same dates that I gave you last month that you wanted to hold off until we had our new board here.
We always do. And the other thing for consideration, I just have a note, doesn't matter to me one way or the other, is in prior, we moved everything from 7:30 to 7 o'clock last year. I don't know, like Kevin, your travel schedule, I don't know if it's better to go back to 7:30. I'm good either way, or if we leave it at 7. people feel about that.
I mean, I'm okay with 7.
I'm okay with
Is that
7.
okay with
Yeah.
I
you?
think I
You're
would
fine,
prefer
Joe?
Works for me.
7. but-
I didn't know if you-
Yeah, yeah, it should be good.
Travel
Yeah.
from Meriden, so, okay.
Yeah, it's usually
So-
about a half-hour drive, 25 minutes, not too
As long as the
bad.
parkway's,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, the tunnel.
Yeah,
Oh, one thing I should know, and I could have did it during the Amity presentation, I talked to Terry Loomis today, and we will be on for the January meeting for Amity to present like they did last year.
They'll be here.
Yeah.
at the
I
January
think
24th
last,
meeting?
yeah.
Okay.
I think last year was Zoom, this year will be live and in person.
Good.
Yeah.
We hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So that means for sure we need to have the Amity discussion and our recommendation in the December meeting. Because what happened last year, if we recall, we began the discussion in the December meeting, and then we went into a January 4th. We added a meeting early in January first week so that we would have it on the table, and we got it done like 45 minutes or whatever it was.
So this is the regular schedule. This isn't
Right.
workshops.
Right.
This isn't all day. Does anybody have any issues with any of these dates?
Let's go through them. 24,
good right now.
28, 31. Yeah, this is regular stuff, right, Kev?
Other than a holiday, it's our third Monday of the month
Yeah.
each time. I
So
mean, our all-day,
21st.
I think we want to go back to our all-day workshop again if we can, right? So
Yeah.
that'll be that
Fourth.
first Friday in February.
Okay.
But that's not part of this. That's,
No,
we can worry
no.
about that.
That's
Okay.
a whole separate thing.
That'll be February 4th.
Roger that.
Okay, then there's a motion to accept the 2022 Board of Finance meeting schedule.
Yeah.
So moved. I'll make the motion.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second it.
second by Kevin. Any further discussion? Excuse me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those abstain, unanimous. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the fun part. Item 10, to review revenue and
Whoop,
cost
whoop, whoop,
reports,
whoop.
and prior to that, the vice chairman's report.
Thank you, Kev.
Well, it's all one, I thought. That's what my
It
understanding.
really is. It really is because I called. I was having I was reading these, and of course, I'm sorry Ajit is not here because I thought it would benefit him. You know, we've got our documents, and I found something that caused me a little bit of a mental thing. John helped me with it, and then I said, well, let me throw together a couple of charts. And if it helps someone else, fine. If not, I'll just get through them, okay? So these are things that are on the board here. So I called this revenue and expense, reading the charts. So the first one is our revenue chart, right? And what I was noticing, and I was very happy with it, and I saw that we were at 54%, but I don't want to get into the percentages now. I just want to say how we read these charts. That we have these categories, all right? Original revenue, estimated revenue adjustments, revised, and then actual year-to-date revenue, and then where we stand, and this is what we look at. So obviously, if we add the first two columns together, you get the one in the middle, C. And then if you subtract off how much you've spent, D, that's what you get from what is left. Pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. So we put that one over here. Then I went to the expense one, and this is where it got it mentally was a little bit troubling to my brain. If you go to the bottom of the chart, so I hope everybody can see that, okay? There were 7 areas, right? We had and this is on page, the visual on the bottom of this page is on the page that we have, is on page 25. And what you have there is you have initial appropriation, that was the 76,114,029. Then there was adjustments or transfers of $1.2 million. And then you had a revised budget. And I looked up above and I said, we've got a revenue budget of that 76,114. Hey, Ajit, I'm happy you made it. Welcome. Here's where your seat is warm. again, for all those at home, he teaches at Central Connecticut and came hustling down the pike to get here. Great.
This semester I have an evening class, so next semester I will be able to schedule.
Okay. We're going over these documents, and it might be instructive. So I was looking at that, and eventually I called John, all right? But just to get through it, if you took the 76,114,029 and you added to it whatever these adjustments were, that's how you got the revised one, okay? And then if you subtract off what you've already expended and what you've encumbered, that's what you get what's left, all right? So you have A plus B equals C, and C subtract D and E, and you get F. All right, and then you have the percentage over here. So what I did is I said to myself, well, what did we have as a budget last spring? So I went back to the document that we gave at the budget hearing, and I said, well, sure enough, it's that 76,114,029. So I said, I don't get this, so I called John. All right, and here's what I learned. What I learned was that there are different types of transfers, and we're going to see them in this budget. And I wanted to share them with you because although I had heard them and I took them for granted, it was irritating me to not see the numbers add up, okay? I didn't understand, to be quite specific, why the expenses weren't this 76,114,029, and here's what I learned. John informed me that the transfers could be 4 types. The first would be encumbered from prior fiscal years, right? But that can only be done by approval of him or a person in his chair. If I got that right, John? Okay. The second one would be, we had in the prior budget negotiated increases to payroll accounts in departments, but it was in one bucket. Now it was being thrown into other areas, into the departments themselves, right?
Can I clarify that
Sure,
one a little
please.
bit? That would be non-union raises that we don't do until after the budget's passed. It could also be union negotiations for contracts that hadn't been settled. Like in the past year, we've had both police, dispatchers, and nurses where we had to retro them and put the money into their accounts to meet that. In the negotiated increases, we always have a number back in benefits every budget year for that.
And that carries
whatever
over
that
when
is.
we don't have
Right.
settle, so could be 2 years worth of.
I think if you remember, one of the years I was on the board, one of the finance directors didn't encumber that money 1 year or 2 years, and we had a problem.
I do recall.
That was
you
one
learn-
problem, and I
you
think
learn from the
Kevin was
mistakes.
chairman when
happened.
somebody left out a $500,000 bond payment.
Yes,
We had to
yes.
scramble for that, so now we have 2 finance directors, so we're in good hands.
We're in good hands.
Okay, we're still in the B category of expenses and types of transfers. The third one would be within a department. You could say, okay, I'm not going to spend as much over here, but I'm going to use it in another area. So we'll call that one departmental internal transfers. And I know that the department head, I don't know for certain that he needs anybody's approval, but he certainly has to have some dialogue with John and his staff. And finally, the type of transfer that could move from that original budget that I was so fond of that we presented at the town budget hearing, the 76,114,029, we could add to the budget as a board. And I guess the approval would be OBOF. I don't know if that's accurate, John, but I wanted to complete the chart. All right? So that's what I learned. Now, I then said to myself, well, I should give you guys an example of this. So if you go to page 1 of your document, all right, if you have it in front of you, and I'll share mine with Ajit and me, you can see in the first category, well, let's go to the second category, the assessor's category. You can see that you have in the first item, appraisal service, $4,400 under that transfer adjustment column. That's the one that has all these adjustments. And so instead of having 13.5, you can see you've got the 17.9, right? And that when he has one like this, when you have an encumbered from prior year, you automatically have it over on the encumbered column, all right, over on that other column over to the right. All right, just so that, what's the logic here, so when you're looking at it. So that's an example of an encumbered from prior year. The negotiated increases, well, also on the same page, at the bottom one in the selectmen column, you can see there's a number 1364, and that is one that would be a negotiated increase category type. But that is not in the encumbered column, just so that you keep it fair, right? All right? So those are the first two examples. The third example, the department internal transfers. Well, John, I found one in your department. It's a little interesting, to say the least, because it's $5,000. You see the minus 5,000, you see the plus 5,000. So I said, well, I wondered what they moved it for. And one says office supplies, and the second one,
Office supplies.
office supplies, Joe.
Same number.
That's not keeping it fair.
That's not keeping it fair at all.
But the numbers over on the left changed
Same.
by one.
One, right, yeah,
Right,
one.
so I'm not going to get into how come, but somebody could answer it, I'm sure.
Well, let me answer it since you brought it up. The 5,000 that's in the original budget column
Yeah.
shouldn't have been in that office supply. For some reason, in my department, we had 2 office supplies. So when we realized that we already had expenses going into the one with no budget against it.
Right.
So the easiest way to fix that was to move the budget line item from the first office supply into the office supply with the cost.
Okay.
That's all that was
Is that the
there.
software, John, or the user?
No, actually, it came in from the old system.
Was
For
it?
some reason, we brought in two accounts with the same name. I
Speaking
don't
of
know.
software, do you like the new software? Is it working out well for you guys?
It's getting better as we know it.
Yeah.
By the way, as you'll be happy to know, it used to be 31 pages of expenses that we went through. Kevin remembers that fondly, I'm sure. All right, it's now down to a cool 25. So anyway, there's an example of that type, all right? And to just give you money's worth, I said, okay, types of encumbrances. Because what I quickly went to when John said, oh, these are transfers and adjustments, I went to the back and I said, well, the numbers don't add up. And he says, well, that's because in encumbrances, you not only have, and that should not say B up there, that should say E, I believe. Could be from the prior year or in the current year. All right, and we see that fairly often, but
It
in
could actually be prior years. It doesn't even have to be one.
Plural.
What I also said to Jim, when we go to do our new budgeting
We're
for the
gonna
new year,
edit that right
we
now.
can look at some of these columns that have big encumbrances in them and maybe whittle down their budget request where you couldn't do that before. You didn't know
Right.
what their encumbrances were. If you remember, when I came here, one of the first things I did is we had over $1 million of encumbrances over the years, and we closed out a lot of that. And that's how we started our capital fund.
Yeah, you have to, yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we can put that right like there then, right? All right. So anyway, that's what I got for you before we get into it. So I think you can see why I wanted to push this here, because as I went through this over the weekend and then today, it really went back to this, Kevin. I'll just focus on you just as a focal point. I just didn't understand how we could have a revenue budget of 76 and an
expense of
expense
77.
budget of 77. I mean, and then the way, however it works in the world of accounting, God bless, but I was worried that somehow we would be in the back end of
We have
it.
$1 million deficit.
Something like that.
Jim, do you have page 21 of the report? Do you have 21?
Oh, I have all the reports open.
Yeah.
We can go through them at whatever rate I'm just doing that's all I got for the vice chairman's report, so there you go. We can decide, we can rifle shoot it or go through revenues and then go through expenses, however you want to do it.
Well, if you have expenses open,
Yes,
if
go
Kevin's
right
got
ahead.
questions, you might as
All
well
right,
start
I've
with
got
that.
my expenses. Did you want to go to 21,
Yeah,
someone
just
say?
go to page 21, real quick. Just want to understand. I think I know what that is, but
This one here, Kev?
let's see. 21.
21?
General fund, down the bottom, yeah, so all the way down the bottom, under employee benefits, it's the account 518, the last one. So that has, that looks like,
There you go.
that looks like a reserve for negotiations.
Yes.
I'm assuming the transfer in is related to expenditures related that were bargained through with the labor contracts that were settled on. Is that-
And the non-union,
and the non-union increases.
Right.
So that's why you have a budget going from 125 to 262,311.
right. I think what you do, Kevin, if you take that 125 plus the 200 that was encumbered,
Yep.
minus the 262 would probably give
Get you
you
to
what I moved
137.
out of there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. Right, but that's strictly all just for salary negotiations. Right. Okay, just wanted to confirm.
Since we're in the, why don't we exhaust our questions on the expense side rather than
Yes.
Kevin, and I can do Vanna White up here on the screen.
And John, first of all, is there anything you need to point out as concerning it yet? That
Let me just.
It's still
Let me
early.
just talk to the tax office.
What page, John?
The expense,
Well, just in general.
Are we on
tax
expenses,
office.
John?
Yes.
Okay, what page?
Go to page 5.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna need to expend some money there to update that department. It hasn't been done.
Are you talking about the tax collector?
Tax collector.
All right,
We have a
thank you.
new tax collector. He needs some training on the system, which we've already talked to the people about, quality data about. He needs some new equipment in there. He's all for getting the scanner, that he doesn't have to go to the bank anymore. He could take the checks that come in, put it through the scanner right away, and it'll be in our bank account, which we know that's been a problem in the past. He's also asked for a money counting machine, which I think's a good idea. They're about $1,500, but he does get a lot of cash in there, and it'll save him a lot of time having to count it and recount it and recount
it.
it again. You know, it's just he's willing to upgrade that department. I think we need to spend a little bit of money to do it.
So John, would that be something that you would propose for the current year budget or for going into the budgetary process for next year?
No, I want to do it now. I want to try and get them up and running for July 1st.
What are you anticipating? Give us a ballpark.
The money counter's about 1,500. The scanner, I think, is about 1,000. So you're talking about 2,500 there, and probably another 3,000 in consulting fees, with somebody coming in to teach them how to run the thing.
Is that somebody from QDS?
QDS, yeah.
Yep.
And then we're gonna do another thing with them, which is gonna save time in the budget also. We're one of the few towns that mail our own tax forms.
Right.
QDS does it for most of the cities and towns in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have them start mailing them out. They're able to put more than one in an envelope if the names are the same and they're going to the same people. We haven't done that.
no, we talked about that last year.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that. The other thing, we're gonna move to the tax department.
That's a cost savings, or is
It'll
it
be a
just
cost savings because they sit up there and they stuff envelopes for days. So they'll be able to do other things.
Is it
that they should
conceptual
be
cost
doing.
savings, or is it a dollar cost savings?
I think it's a dollar cost saving. Postage, labor, envelopes. I think it's a
Okay.
good thing.
Labor's the biggest piece of it, yeah.
Yeah. And we have cut them down to 2 people.
If you're
Yeah.
If you give a good
paying
proposal.
extra labor.
Yeah.
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 Another thing we're gonna do is, we're gonna move the sewer tax bills to that department. It's always been run out of, since
Treasurer.
from, not even the treasurer, the public works office. they're gonna still work on getting the bills correct and all, and then it's gonna be handed off to Quality Data. Quality Data's gonna print them. We've been trying to print them in-house on some little software that we've had for 20 years, and it keeps breaking down. Quality Data does it for other cities and towns. They know how to do it. They get the same file from the Regional Water Authority that we get now, and then it's going to all be collected out of the tax office. It only makes sense to do it there.
So one thing as a resident I would notice is instead of getting a motor vehicle bill and a
Personal property bill.
Property bill,
In
I'll
separate
get one
envelopes,
of
you
them.
get one, long as the names on the front are the same. Say if you got a tax bill
No,
for your house.
that's right.
And your friend there gets one for the car, they'd be in
Yep.
separate envelopes because of different names.
Okay.
So John, this wasn't on the agenda for tonight to transfer money for any of these things?
No. As
Small
we
enough,
need
it's
it.
internal, or we
Yeah,
deal with it in
As
December?
we need it, I could either deal with it with maybe closing off some encumbrances, or if I need to come to you for it, we will.
Well, you've given us a heads up, is what you're telling us. I think.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna need it in the town clerk's office, because I believe Pat is gonna come back and work with Mary Shaw on training her, so I think we're okay there. I think what we're gonna need to do, though, we're probably gonna need to raise the amount of money we put in the tax collector for the third person that they use part-time during the collection season of July and January, but we'll deal that with the new budget for next July.
Okay.
Again, and that kind of goes to what I've spoken to before about our minimum wage going up.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to boost that a little bit too.
Okay, we'll deal with that in the budget season, right?
Right.
Okay. John, this will be a good test of what you educated me on before, because I don't see it. On page 13, on the street sweeping, right? You see in the middle here, this street sweeping, we have an addition of 23,972, right? So I noticed that it doesn't exactly hit on the encumbered side, the 20,000, it's 526, and for whatever reason, God has decided to put cents in that column rather than just dollars.
I think if you take the 20,526
Yeah.
and the 3,445 that's been expended, I
Yeah.
think that gets you to the 23,972.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Then answer me why it's going up from when we budgeted, almost double.
Again, that 20,000 is a encumbrance from a previous year.
And 3,000 is
Do you think that we,
And
Kevin, when we
3,000's been
did a budget for
expended out
street sweeping, we said, well, we looked at what was going this year or other year?
I don't think we would have known, because street sweeping's done in May,
Okay.
and we're doing the budget in February.
Right.
Okay. On page 14, the next page, I guess, I'm noticing, and again, just inquiring minds type of thing, salary mechanics is already 78% expended at this 37.5% of the year accomplished here at the 4.5 month mark. Any reason for that? You know?
Yes. If you look down, there's the third line from the bottom
Bottom.
there, salary shop foreman hasn't been encumbered. What we did is when we
Hasn't been anything there.
when we did the budget for last year, we had one mechanic and one shop foreman.
Right.
Shop foreman then left. We hired another mechanic with the.
So if you cut this in half, it's 39%, and therefore you got
Well,
two
what
people
happened?
there.
What happened now? The mechanic that we hired is now
Right.
going to become the shop foreman starting on Monday.
Okay.
So you'll start seeing the money going into shop foreman.
And do we
for
have a
his
mechanic,
salary.
or are we still short
And we
of-
still have a mechanic.
We do have, okay, so we're back to
So we'll be
strength down there.
between those two accounts, we'll be fine.
Okay. Same thing over in Park and Rec, their mechanic situation, it seems like they're pretty high.
No,
That's
they
on
don't.
page 17.
No, that's gotta be something different.
That's 71% right in the middle here. 60,000 is the budget right in the middle of that section, John, the Park and Rec maintenance.
Those are the people that cut the lawn outside.
Oh, so they're,
Yeah, that's again, that's probably higher than what it would be, but
Yeah.
we had to raise their salaries because of minimum wage, and we didn't raise it in the budget. They'll be laid off as soon as they get the leaves up, probably within a couple of weeks, and then they'll only be called back if it snows to do sidewalks, and then they won't be back until April to cut the lawn again. We'll
Okay.
probably be over expended in that account though, with 3 people. You'll see an increase in that in probably their new budget because of the salaries there.
The only other thing I'll mention is, since I did the work, it's hard to know when we got 47% of a budget, right, and you're only 37.5% of the year in, then you say, oh, yeah, but some of the stuff we expend, like that.
Seasonal.
Yeah. So I actually did the analysis. And the funny thing was, I found 8 categories: debt, amity, OBOE, refuse, employee benefits, capital, insurance. And then I said, well, what if they were 40%? Just to rough it out. And it turned out that this number it became 39.9%. And then I said, well, I can sleep easy on this. Right. So, and that's probably where you're at, John, I would assume. Because none of the departmental budgets seem to be over 40% at all.
No.
So that's all I have on the expense side.
It looks like also a similar instance on page 3, under the building inspection department. It looks like there was a position taken out for electrician and an assistant building.
Okay, what happened there was we had our building inspector, who's the chief in there.
Yep.
Then we had an electrical inspector who, with the non-union raises, was then made assistant building inspector.
Okay.
So we moved what his salary was in the electrical area, what was
Into
left
the,
was then
yeah.
moved into the building inspector with whatever the raise was
Yeah.
for that. And that should be trending okay.
So obviously all these changes were made after the budget was passed, and
Right,
they weren't
right.
planned for that way.
But we don't do any of the non-union ones until after the budget's
Yeah.
passed.
Yep.
And this year, we got it done earlier. We got it done for July 1, and we made an effort to do it this year. In the past years,
Yeah.
we hadn't done it until November and December
So for the
with a
com-
retro
Yeah.
to July 1,
Right.
which made more calculations for my office.
Yep.
I've got a couple on the revenue side, but let's stay on expenses till we exhaust everybody's thoughts. Kevin?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, on the page 1 of the revenue, John, I did, again, this is Jim's learning. I was curious when I saw on page 1 near the bottom, zoning violation. We obviously didn't budget for it, but we got money. What's that?
Certain times in the Plan and Zoning Commission, they're able to levy fines
That's what
on
I thought it was.
individuals.
Oh, really?
Not often, and they don't always collect them, but
That's the issue, because there's been some that have been
Right, and that-
sizable and never
And that's
collected.
why we don't budget for it, because it's
Oh, yeah.
not a,
I understand that, but
yeah.
Exactly.
It kind of, once in a while, you do get it. I'm not even sure who that is that we got that from. I do want to point out one thing on the front page here,
Good.
though. If we go to the very top under the pilot,
yes.
you'll notice we got $90,000 more than we originally planned.
Yeah.
If you remember, the city of New Haven for years and years has been complaining about their pilot and how they don't get money from the state that they should be getting because of all their non-taxable properties, i.e. Yale. Well, the state legislature changed that this year and gave New Haven an additional $50 million. And then they also gave the other cities and towns a little bite of the apple also. Our little bite was a additional $90,000.
Had we been collecting this 200,000 more or less?
Yes,
or-
yes. That's the number we get right out of the governor's budget every year.
All right, good, thank you.
I don't know if Kevin wants to volunteer with a little bite Meriden got.
Yeah, we got a bigger bite of the apple, just because we're a bigger city.
The New Haven?
No, not the New
Oh,
Haven, no, than Orange, yeah.
They were having a problem with UNH with did
Yeah,
that get cleared up?
no, we've had discussions with them, and the discussions are ongoing.
Still under negotiation.
They're saying they had some difficulties during the COVID 2 years, so we'll see what happens.
Everybody blames COVID for everything.
With what? Because they did institute pay cuts and freezes, and that was
Yeah.
public. They did have some issues.
Plus, they probably lost revenue with the dormitories and all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
The kids weren't there.
Dog licenses, page 2. near
That's a big
line.
one.
Yeah, but I'm trying to understand what's going on. Why is it that, on the one hand, you see a lot of dogs, but people just not getting
Well, the
licenses?
dog licenses aren't due until June, so technically, we haven't collected that yet. This is the money from the people that came in after actually, I think September 1st, because I think we do a 90-day collection on that too,
Yeah.
don't we, Kevin?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is people that came in and paid for their licenses after September 1st. Either they got a new dog and needed a license, or they got caught, or they just happened to come in to do it. Mm-hmm. But our dog license fees have been going down for the last few years.
Okay.
I think they'll bounce back this year. Seems like a lot of people got dogs during COVID.
Yes,
I got a lot of them in
Yeah.
my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Under page, let's see, this is page 3, under fire marshal permits. Is there any reason why that's at least down per what we budgeted at 20,000?
If you look though below, there's permits for credit cards.
Ah,
So it's gotta be combined.
so you're saying
Right.
that it's really 6,600, so
right.
it's in the ballpark of
Right.
where we estimate.
Art has still kept a couple accounts with the credit cards
Okay.
for some reason to see who's paying cash and not.
Okay. At the top of page 4, I'm just trying to understand what HPCC nursery got a bonus of 6,000. It looks like that we
That-
didn't budget.
That's in the wrong place.
Okay. Fine.
That's the rent for the nursery school.
Yeah, I think that's on the last page.
Okay, we can make
talk
that
to 'em
adjustment.
about that.
Underneath that, I'm noticing that refuse charges are only at 26%. Is that a sign of something to come? We over budgeted, or what are we doing here?
I think when we raised our rates down there, some of the people went other places, some of
Okay.
the containers, which won't hurt us because it means we're not pulling that tonnage out of there either.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the next page, over when it says permits for food service under environmental health, is there something that we should understand about the town here?
Those permits go out in May and June.
Okay.
Well, actually, if you notice there, Jim, there's 2 food permits, there's $8,000
Oh, so we
underneath.
once again have to.
Yeah, combine
okay.
the two.
We haven't
again.
consolidated those yet, okay. And on the last page, we got a lot of zeros. Is there anything that we should understand here for all 3 of the town services and other?
Oh, there you can see the nursery school.
That's where the $6,000 should be for the
Yeah.
rent.
Okay,
Public health, sewer fund reimbursement. No, those are all good.
okay. Nothing to worry about there?
Nothing to worry about there.
Okay.
Well, the 200 we got to worry about.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I did, just bring it up, I did put the storm-related expenses in again. I'm not gonna try and say the name again,
I can't say it.
but we did get another payment of $35,000, so
I
it's
saw that.
coming
That's-
in dribs and drabs there, and Bob was working last week on the labor part of it also.
I thought when we met in October, you told us that we had, how much did we, and again, whatever the answer is fine. I thought that we had said in October that we had received a fair amount of money. I guess not.
No.
Okay,
no.
just the
They-
2651?
What they.
That we're seeing over
That's
here.
what we had received then.
Okay.
What they're doing is they broke the different expenses into different categories, and they're working through each category at a time. We got the 2,600 for whatever that was. We got the 35,000 for whatever that group is. Now they're working on the labor part, and then the final piece will come in, but
We're certainly
It's-
keeping the accountants busy,
it's
Kevin. I mean,
Yeah, because we
I
thought
think
we would get 38,000 at our last meeting,
yeah.
and that's exactly where we are with this.
oh.
Yeah,
I might
I-
have known, I might have had a notice already that the 35 was coming in.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think you
told
said
that.
something
Said it
large,
wasn't
but
here.
whatever it is,
I think
God
I
bless
told you
America.
last time about the rental of the generators.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
gave you the story about the rental of the generators, so.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, this is within $6 of my notes to what we actually got, so.
all right, so in December, we're going to have the people who had the memos, which is the mental health, right? John, in December, we'll have.
Board of Health.
Board of Health. And it looks like in old business here, we have in January, among other things, we're going to have a revisit of the OVNA, at least currently scheduled.
Yeah, because their accountant was supposed to get us through November 30th's numbers,
Yeah.
so we could see what's going on right now.
If he comes in January or February, he'll probably have the whole report that he has to do for the federal government, like what he handed.
Or the one he handed out to us.
Right. Either December or January, depending on when it gets done, we'll have our audit too. I'm hoping for December. I'm trying to push for December.
Michelle, you mean?
Michelle.
Yeah. Okay.
Last year was really late, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Last year it was April.
Yeah.
That won't happen again.
In the prior years, we were probably in January, I think.
January, December and
January,
January, we've
yeah.
gone, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Anything else on those? Right? Well, then, Mr.
You're in the
You're
chair.
you're the new
You're in
adjournment
the
guy?
chair.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kevin, is there a second?
We have to vote on that to put him in.
Who's charged
The
of
great
adjournment?
chair.
Now it's
always
automatic.
gets, we-
Joe, did you just second that?
I did, I seconded it, yes.
The motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Who's ever
Yep.
sitting on that chair.
Opposed, abstaining, unanimous. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned at 8:36.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.